Welcome everyone to the Great Exhaust Challenge. Now this challenge has been taking place over the past week, and I have my book right here that shows all the stuff I've been writing out and planning it out, and it has been pretty interesting. So we have gone with 5 different rounds consisting of 26 contenders in this entire competition, and I tried to blend in as many things as we got. So we had 4 cylinders, 6 cylinders, 12 cylinders, and an 8 cylinder. Again, there are 2 wild cards though that, as you now know, if you've guessed pretty correctly, there's a 5-cylinder and a W16, which is only one company making a W16, and that is Bugatti. A lot of people have asked, why have I excluded a 10-cylinder? Well, there's only 2 10-cylinder cars on the market right now, the Lamborghini Huracan and the Audi R8, and they're both essentially the same car and essentially the same engine. So it would be kind of silly to put them against one another, and especially if there's only really one competitor in the market and they're competing against each other, it's not really fair to battle it out. And they're also not really new for 2020, so that kind of ruled out the 10-cylinder in this situation. So now in this entire video, I'm going to explain how the entire process worked. We're going to look through the brackets and go all the way down to the winner and see how we got there. There's a lot of surprises and a lot of really interesting competitions that have gone over the past week, especially on all the polls that happened on Instagram. We're going to take a nice dive in at all the detailed information and numbers that we've gathered from this entire event. Okay everyone, so another really interesting part of this entire test was that it was blind. I didn't have any of the car names out. I did show the pictures of the exhausts and the images that I posted and videos that I posted on Instagram. And some of you guessed them correctly when sending me a direct message, and actually a lot were pretty wrong on a lot of them. So now I'm going to unveil all of the letters. You can see here somewhere in the top right section. And here are all the car names. So if you can see on the left side, on the top left, we have the 4 cylinders. Now, this battle starts off with an M235i, which is the Grand Coupe, an AMG 35 line, the Super 2-liter 4-cylinder that just recently came out, the AMG 45 line, the new CT5 V, a Mini Cooper GP, which someone actually thought the exhaust image looked like a Cayman GT4, which is pretty interesting. And the wild card in that one was the 5-cylinder from the Audi TT RS, RS3, RSQ3, that lineup vehicles. And then going into the 6 cylinders on the left side, we have the CT5 V, which is new, the AMG 53 line of products. Specifically, we use the AMG GT53 for the exhaust, the new M440i, in the Range Rover P400 powertrain, which is a straight 6. And then an interesting one at the end was the 992 Turbo S and the 718 GT4. Going over to the right-hand side, we have the 2 V12s in this entire competition. Was the all-new Lamborghini Squadra Corse Essenza SC-V12, which a lot of people thought was a Pista, and then the 812 GTS, which is another competitor there. Moving down, we have all the 8 cylinders. So up next, we have the RS7 versus the M8. Then we have the Hellcat Red Eye Charger versus the C8 Corvette. And then we have the new 765 LT versus the F8 Tributo, and a wild card in this one is the W16 from the new Devo. And finally, we have the GLE or GLS 63 versus the Levante Trofeo, the new one, and the AMG GT Black Series versus the LC 500 as the final competitors. Now, as you can see, you probably think, oh, this is pretty weird, but as it was blind, there were some pretty interesting results. So we're going to go right over to round 2 to see what happened there. Okay, now looking at round 2, I also have some of the poll numbers up there if you wanted to see from both sides. You can see some interesting stuff that has happened. So in the first competition on the top left, we can see that the M235i has beaten out the AMG 35. Pretty interesting stuff, and it's going against the Supra 2.0 4-cylinder, which has beaten the AMG 45. So this could be due to the new European exhaust regulations, making those cars a bit quieter there, and maybe in the US, or maybe they just don't sound that good. And then going down, we have the interesting one, which happened with the wild card. So there was the CT4 V, which is a 4-cylinder, the Mini Cooper GP, which is a 4-cylinder, and then the wild card there was the 5-cylinder from the Audi. That one actually beat out the 2 4-cylinders to move on to the next round. And then below that, we have the CT5 V versus the AMG 53. Now, this was really interesting, as a lot of people thought the CT5 V exhausts were an AMG product. Even though they look pretty similar to an AMG exhaust with the horizontal slats, it's not. It's a Cadillac, and it sounds really good, actually. So good that it beat the AMG 53 lineup, which is a straight 6 with our EQ boost technology on that. And then moving down, we have the M440i, which quickly and easily beat out the Range Rover Defender P400 powertrain, which of course had a straight 6. It actually doesn't sound too bad for the size of the Defender it is, but no surprise, the BMW is louder, especially in Sport Plus mode. In Turbo S versus the 718 GT4. This was really kind of an easy one too. The Turbo S sounds like a vacuum cleaner. This does sound pretty good actually for this generation. But of course, the naturally aspirated 718 GT4 easily beat that one out as well. Other side, of course, not surprising, the SV12 won. The 812 GTS sounds really good, and it is the Ferrari V12, though the insanity of the SV12 quickly and easily beat that out. Moving down, you can see the M8 versus the RS7. The M8 did prevail here, which is pretty interesting. I know the RS7 and the RS Q8, the whole line of Audi 4-liter twin-turbo V8s, they sound pretty throaty and muscular, but BMW does tune their exhausts to be very loud and barky, which could have helped in this comparison. Of course, moving down, we have the Hellcat Red Eye Charger and the C8 Corvette. Now, I did mess this poll up, but I did make sure to match them up, whichever one won, and it ended up with the Hellcat Charger Red Eye winning over the C8 Corvette. But it's really interesting, though, as the CR Corvette, personally, I think sounds better than the Hellcat Red Eye Charger. And that's naturally aspirated too. And there's some way more variants of that coming along in the future, so we're gonna have to stay tuned for that, and those are probably gonna sound really good. And the next competition, I actually found this one pretty interesting. It was the 765 LT versus the F8 Tributo, and the W16 is the wild card. I thought the 765 LT was going to win, but it turned out that the W16 from the Devo won. Very interesting results there. And then the next one is the Levante Trofeo one. And then here's my favorite. The AMG GT Black Series lost to the LC500. The LC500 has an amazing exhaust. Now, if you've never heard it in person, or just go see a video, or I'll play it, you can hear it right here. Yeah, it sounds amazing. Unfortunately, the AMG GT Black Series has a lot of silencers and particulate filters and stuff due to the European regulations to make it sound kind of quiet. Hopefully in the aftermarket, owners are going to be able to open that up a little bit more to hear that unique V8 roar. So this leaves an interesting competition that happens in round 2. This leads to the M235i beating out the Supra, then the CT5 V beating out the 5-cylinder on the wild card, which is really interesting. And then the M440i beating out the Cayman 718 Cayman GT4. That kind of made me sad. I really do like that car, but I'd personally rather have that over the 4 Series, to be honest. Again, the SV12 keeps pushing on through, beating out the M8. The Hellcat beating out the Hellcat losing, and the W16 moving on. And of course, the LC500, it's an amazing exhaust note, beats out the Levante Trofeo, which does sound pretty good as well with the Ferrari V8 under the hood. Now we are on round 3 already, and we have a M235i versus the CT5 V. Now, this is a 4-cylinder versus 6-cylinder, and a pretty good sounding 6-cylinder, so it's no surprise that the CT5 V won that. On the other side, we have the SCV12 versus the W16. Both great sounding vehicles, but you cannot beat the high revving, screaming nature of the V12. So the SC V12, of course, moves on even more than that. And now we have round 4. Now we're in the semifinals of this entire competition. So here we have the M440i versus the CT5 V, and we have the LC500 versus the SCV12. Now, I think you could pretty much guess who's going to win. By now, you've seen all the results on Instagram, and just by looking at these cars, you can see who's going to win. Unfortunately, the LC500 did not beat out the SCV12, even though it has an amazing sounding exhaust. It personally would have been one of my picks for best sounding exhaust of 2020, but the SCV12 is insane, and so it has moved on. So I think in that case, we all realized that the CT5 V was not going to win against a screaming V12. And the winner of the 2020 Allcarnews Exhaust Challenge is the Lamborghini Essenza SCV12. So yeah, this was the entire ACN exhaust challenge. This is the first time doing it. I think it went pretty well, pretty decently. There's definitely some things that could be changed and modified going on for next year. And if you guys have any more comments or suggestions or how to change or how to modify it, leave them down in the comment section below or DM me on Instagram. I'm sure you guys have a lot of opinions on this. I already saw some really helpful stuff that we're going to change for the next year too. Hope you guys really enjoyed this. I wanted everyone to have fun, especially in the crazy year that 2020 is. And this was a little bit of a distraction from the insanity that's happening in the world around us. Thank you again for watching, and stay tuned for a lot of stuff coming in 2021.